The Travel Show, live at the Hotel Show, in association with Virgin Atlantic.
Fly to Manchester, Aberdeen, and Edinburgh through London Heathrow on Little Red.
Yeah, welcome back to our live coverage talking hotels here at the 15th edition of the Hotel Show, as well, of course, as the exposition, the displays. There's lots going on at the Vision conferences.
There is indeed. Of course, this is where the hospitality professionals get together and debate the main issues of the day. And we have one of the panelists from this morning here with us right now, Christopher Hewett, Senior Consultant at TRI Hospitality Consulting, and really a returning friend of the show. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Nice to see you.
Good, yeah, great to have you on again. And you've been on a couple of panels today already, so just tell us what you've been chatting about.
Well, the first panel that we had this morning was on trends in the hospitality and leisure sector. It was very interesting. It's really looking at what are the current trends going on, whether it's through design, through development, through service, and really seeing how is the landscape within Dubai expanding. And the second session was looking at the development and growth of the mid-market hotel range, which is a really hot topic at the moment, especially as the DTCM put a lot of initiatives to try and grow this market and try and diversify the product mix of Dubai to a more even spread from luxury to 5-star to 4-star and even to a budgeted economy.
Right, so let's start then with trends in hospitality. What were some of the issues that and some of the topics that came out of that, and what was discussed?
Well, there were sort of three key elements that came out. One was design, and the other one's looking at technology. How is technology playing a role in hospitality and hotel developments now, and then the evolution of service. One of the main topics actually incorporated all three of those was lifestyle hotels. We're starting to see more focus on lifestyle hotels. Big international operators are looking at developing lifestyle brands within their portfolio, and we're starting to see more and more of these hotels enter into the market, and they really are focusing on the newer generation of visitors and guests, and really catering to the needs that they have, which are fast service, something that's very unique, experiential, and funky and enjoyable at the same time.
So funny, we've actually just been talking about that with one of our design guests from Stickman just a little earlier on in the show, and this kind of concept of making something quick and easy and technologically accessible for these millennial travellers, the Gen Y visitors, certainly a very, very popular concept. What kind of challenges does that raise for the existing hotels? Do they need to go all out and kind of re-kit themselves in terms of technology?
Well, technology for me is an interesting point of view, because you go into the latest hotels and they have iPads that control everything in the rooms. And for me, I like the whole fact I could still open up the curtains with my hands and not have to rely on a button or an iPad or something like that. And
so I think 20th century, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think there's a balance. There has to be a balance in technology of not being too complicated, and still being simple and easy to use for any traveller, regardless if it's focusing on the millennial generation Y. You still have the older generation being able to go in there and not get confused and have to call up front office and get someone to come and explain the whole process for you.
Yes, as you said, there is that kind of happy medium, isn't there? I mean, what about check-in? I mean, that seems to be an area that people like to be using their mobile technology these days.
Well, that's a very interesting topic, because, the whole evolution of online check-in and check-out is, what does that leave for the industry? You get a lot of hoteliers that will say, well, we want to interact with our guests. We want to have that face-to-face time, because ultimately we find out what they like, what they don't like, and we get that feedback. However, that's not the case for everybody. As a business traveller myself, sometimes after a long day, the last thing I want to do is go in and check in the front desk. I'd rather just have the ability to go straight up to the room and not have to worry about the process of check-in and check-out. So I think that as hotels evolve and they adopt this form of technology, it's really about finding a medium that caters to specific families or specific types of guests, and how to make sure that the service is personalised to each one of them.
You mentioned that you're not too keen on the curtains opening and closing with a button. What kind of technology do you like in a hotel room? What appeals to you?
Well, I think allowing myself to use different forms of technology. Like use an iPad that you can watch. So if you've got a movie that you want to watch on your iPad, you connect it through to the TV. So it's really about this adaptive type of technology and not being over immersive where you have to press a button to open this or do that. It becomes too complicated sometimes. Keep it simple and
there'll be a button to turn the tap on next.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Seriously, I'm lost with really technological hotel rooms. In terms of other trends, what were the other kind of big ones that you see coming up as we see the scene here really expand so much ahead of 2020?
Well, there's a really interesting point that came up, and that's about independent hotels that are boutique, that are something unique, something that is different. And you see that throughout Europe. You see a hotel that's been designed and developed by a hotelier. He's got a vision, he's got a perspective on what he wants his hotel to be like. And you see that, but you don't see that here. I think the closest that you get is Gordon Campbell Gray's Hotel Le Gray in Beirut. And that's something that I think will be the next evolution of people trying to create landmark properties that don't necessarily have an international brand to it, but it's got something that's unique and it's enjoyable and people are going to be attracted to regardless of what the name is on the door.
Do you think there's any chance we might see, in a similar way that Dubai Tourism came in and kind of granted those breaks, those levies for 3 and 4 star properties to encourage them to come here? Do you think we might see some sort of break on fees or payments for independent boutique brands? Because at the moment, if you're a small property, it can be quite expensive and difficult to compete with the bigger brands.
Well, I think it depends on which segment it is. As a 5-star or luxury hotel, you can still leverage the product that you offer, whether you're independent or international. And international brands obviously have a lot more marketing support. They can generate a lot of room nights of demand through their internal systems, and the marketing structure is a lot more beneficial for them. But a lot of the times, the difference between an independent hotel and or having an independent property or having a brand associated with your property is purely an owner's decision. Whether he wants to have that affiliation or not. So I think it'll probably be, the initiatives will stay likely within the growth market, which is the 3 and 4 star brand.
Putting a timeline on it, I mean, do you think we're going to be seeing a lot of these kind of boutique hotels, springing up before 2020, or is it going to be a bit further on in the future?
Well, if you look at a typical hotel development life cycle or time frame, you're looking at from conceptual design to opening can be anywhere between 3 and 5 years.
Yeah.
There are a number of hotels already in the market that are independent and boutique to some extent and are unique. The H Hotel on Shakeside Road in Media One is an example of it. So there are some there that are setting the precedent, but I think it's a fact of having owners who are visionary. They want to create something different. They just don't want to have a box that's got a name on the side of it. They want to create a legacy as a hotel and have a hotelier or have a GM which is associated that shares that same vision. So I see there is going to be an opportunity for that, and I think there will be a couple of properties by 2020. But I think it's going to take a while to reach that tipping point where people see that it is successful, it is unique, and they can go in there without having such high sort of risk elements incorporated into it.
An interesting one to see how that unfolds, definitely. Moving on to the second panel discussion, which you've literally kind of just come out of, the development and growth of mid-range hotels. Of course, we touched on this, a big initiative from Dubai Tourism driving this sector. What were your key points that came out of this discussion?
Well, one of the key points that was discussed is, what is going to sort of stop or inhibit the growth of the segment, the mid-market hotels. And one of the points that we discussed was land cost. Land is a key part of any hotel development, and if the land is high and it makes the project unviable, people aren't simply going to choose that type of positioning for a hotel. They'll have to look at a 5-star or luxury to try and support the investment in the land cost. However, a way of getting around that is by looking at secondary locations that don't necessarily have the high level of demand and may be soft in performance for the first couple of years while the area around it develops. And that's where I think the DTCM initiatives are actually going to help, because they are providing a break of the municipality fee for 3 to 5 years depending on when they lodge it. And that's going to help investors when it comes to the viability of those projects in secondary areas. And as the development grows and matures, the capital appreciation of that land will increase and will actually make the project a lot more viable in the long term.
In terms of percentages, right? I mean, in comparison to 5-star hotels, then maybe to the lower mid-market, what you were talking about. How do you see it kind of all panning out, in terms of market share?
Well, I think looking on a long-term perspective, you will get to a point where the 3 and 4-star hotel market will certainly be upwards of 50-60% of total supply, because that's where you can get the biggest growth area. The 5-star market is great. They're performing very, very well. But if you look at the real strong performing properties, they're all along the beach, and there's only so much waterfront that you can develop or utilize. So the biggest growth area is going to be in the 3 and 4-star market. And as you get closer to World Expo, and as the Dubai World Central area develops and grows and gets a strong population, the 4 and the 3-star market, attracts a wider range of guests rather than the 5-star and the luxury market.
But there's no beach left for them, is there? Sadly.
But you know what? When you are the market doing either kind of a big family holiday or you're a business traveller, 3 and 4-star, ideal accommodation. In terms of the owners, I know that a few years back there was the kind of issue of owners liking the idea of having a 5-star hotel. It's an attractive, very appealing product to be involved with, and there was seemed to be less interest going into the mid-range and slightly more budget end limited service brands. Has that changed now? Have attitudes changed?
Yeah, it is growing. You're starting to see a shift in the perspective of owners from what we could call a ego-driven investment, where you're looking at purely, I want to have a 5-star hotel, my friend's got one, I want to have one, and that's it, regardless of the financial returns, compared to more savvy investors now that look at what is going to be the best for this piece of land, what is going to be the best return on investment as a hotel development. And you will get that with more 3 and 4-star hotels. They have a lower amount of food and beverage contribution to total revenues, and F&B is actually less profitable than rooms. So the more rooms that you have in your GFA, the more profits you're going to have, and it's going to be a more viable development, and you generally get returns which are significantly higher than the luxury and the 5-star hotels.
Well, fantastic. Christopher Hewett, Senior Consultant at TRR Hospitality and Consulting. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Some great insights. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Enjoy the show. Now, before we go to the news headlines, perhaps a quick reminder, Mark, of the prize we have up for grabs.
Yeah, we have 500 dirhams worth of credit to purchase any lime and tonic experience on that ever popular website, of course.